Hello, I'm Richard Raffan and I'm going to show you how I made these little square plates. Gets quite exciting with the second one because I didn't think I had enough material, but there was a very nice pattern on the wood and I persevered and it succeeded quite well. This is a blank for a little square plate. It's about 6 inches square, 150mm. It's going on to a screw chuck. This is a Vic Mark 3-in-1. You don't need all that screw, so I've got a couple of little spacers and just wind those on slowly. And then I don't put that on with the lathe running because it's got corners, and that's when you tend to get bitten by the job. So that's on nice and tight. Now this is going to go on to this chuck, which is a 130mm roughly. What's it, about 5 inches, something like that. And I should have some dividers set for that. Not those ones. Where on earth have they got to? Right, so that's that. So I need to flatten this off to start with, and of course you can see the main hazard here is the wings coming around. So the idea is to have as large a diameter on the plate as possible, and then the corners will be sticking out after that. I need my safety glasses on. And stand well clear of this line of fire, so to speak, so when it comes on. So to trim this up, true this up, I'm going to use the left wing of the 3/8 of the 1/2 inch spindle gouge. I can begin just to come out into space there a bit. Be very careful reaching underneath the rest here too, because there are these corners flying around. I'm going to get that down to true, and then I can come across. That's just a little bit too long a bevel there. I'm going to be better off with the bowl gouge. It's got a steeper bevel on the nose. I'm just having a bit of problems picking up the edge on that, so I assume that's the grind, so I'm just going to quickly touch that up. And as always, if you feel the tool could be cutting slightly better, you go to the grinder. Yeah, that just makes all the difference. And if that doesn't work going to the grinder, then you've got to start looking at the tool angle, and if that doesn't work, then you've got to start looking at your end of the handle. So that's got a slight round in the middle, so I'm going to use the wing now just to drag back. And I want to get this clear out here, so I'm using the wing of the tool just to squeeze back. And now this block of wood is not completely square. I don't like completely square dishes, and you'll see how I shape that a bit later. But the top end is, the top surface is flat, so I'm going to cut, so I've got about 1/4 inch, about 6mm of a square corner up at the top here. Now,
it's got no signal from the camera. I just want to see. Oh no, yeah, it's just a power issue. Okay, continue.
Okay. Right, so I'm now going to just bring the rest up a fraction, so when I'm using the scraper it's tilted down on the flat face. Let's take it firmly back, and I'm going to measure the diameter, lay out the diameter, so the mark, I need the center, which is just there between the 2 points. So I'm measuring on the diameter, and the mark I make with the left needs to line up with the right, so we'll get it wrong to start with. So it's out here, just mark that in case you can't see it. It's out there, so I need to move the left point over half this distance over here. And you get very good at doing this, and it only takes a couple of seconds. Right, that will be the diameter. And now I can start to develop the side here. Squeeze the tool in and then back. Now these chucks I can grip on a very small foot. We're just having a little camera problem here. You're right? Right, that wasn't so much a camera problem as a power problem and cables falling down. So now going to have this is the skewed scraper. It's actually a shear scraper. It's fairly light, so that it's only a quarter inch thick, so it's I can feel more what's happening with it. I want to go in and then just come very gently up the side. Now, trying to take off a minimum cut with a broad edge like this here is pretty difficult. So, but if I tilt the tool up on edge, I never have more than a couple of millimeters of wood in contact with the edge. It's rather like if I do that with my finger, you try and take your finger or take the edge past your finger without distorting the skin. It's well nigh impossible. You've got no contact or half an inch. But if you tilt it up, you never have very much contact. So in situations like this where there's a lot of space, tilt the tool up on edge and squeeze it back. And the point of the cut is up in the lower edge. I'll just do it once more. I can come in a little bit more than that. The hands planted on the rest. Just squeeze the tool out. Could have the rest a bit further out. Right, so that's all cut nice and clean. Hardly needs sanding, which is always a relief when you've got these corners coming round. Now, cutting the foot. To start with, I'm just going straight in on the diameter. Then use the same tool as the 3/8 spindle gouge, in on its side and in a bit to the wood, and then rotate it very slightly, just tweak it to the anti-clockwise, and that undercuts the foot a little bit. I want that flat, so it's going to ruler and just check that, and it is, but it's not. It's just slightly concave. Could be a little bit more than that. So you can hear the heavier cut in the middle, and then just fading it out. And this time there'll be about 1.5 millimeters underneath. So ease the corner of the tool in for a bit of decoration, and that will do that. And to round off the edge, get the ruler out of the way, I'm just going to take a little arcing cut just to round over the corner of the foot there, and I'm going to come back again from underneath here, just round it over. Right, that'll be fine. So the nasty bit here is going to be sanding the wings, and If you can avoid getting your fingers in there, you just feel a lot more comfortable, or at least I do. So, dust up. 180 grits here. I've got some little blocks. Right, well that's got the extreme corners. I can still see a few little kind of scratch marks, if you like, around there, so don't mind getting in on halfway up my fingers. Too bad. The thing you need to remember with anything like this, it is a utilitarian object. So it's going to get used and it's going to get knocked around a bit. So the odd little sanding mark really isn't going to make much of a difference. Once it's had a few hours use. Now this time I'm going to use some foam. Probably a bit more like my fingers as far as the kind of texture and pressure is concerned. Yep, that looks a lot better. Right, so that's that, and I can finish that. So I'm going to get some boiled linseed oil here, which is there's an old soap container pump thing, so slop the oil on, and this is a finish which the moment the piece is washed up it'll come off. And normally if I was just going to put this straight into use I wouldn't bother to oil it, I'd just wash it. So that's the oil in, beeswax goes in on top, so that's it kind of all mixes in together. And I think the main purpose of the beeswax is so if there is any, if the oil doesn't dry, at least the wax keeps the oil in the wood rather than dripping onto a gallery shelf or something like that. Right, so that's the outside done. And that comes on, and then there's a demo. You just hope you got the measurement right. Yes, so that's on there, and although people was very suspicious that a chuck won't hang on to such a small foot. That's about 1/8 of an inch, about 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters. So, but that goes on, and I can lean against that quite happily. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. So the main problem now is trying to cut the corners cleanly. I don't mind if it chips a little bit because I have ways around that. But what I would like is an even wall thickness down here. So it's really a question of lining up with where you want to go out in space here, and then just going for it. Don't need to drill another depth hole because that's going to be quite deep enough, but I like to get to the bottom of the central hole to start with. You're very nervous about the depth hole. One way to do it is to go to a drill press and set it up so that the drill stops at the thickness you want in the bottom of the plate, and just drill a hole that way. Right, so this is a 3/8 bowl gouge. Not going to take long to get it out now. Difficult bits. So. And the initial cut needs to be, you need to go in one go at least down to solid timber, and that way if you move smoothly you'll get a smooth line. I've still got a teeny little flat up on the top here. One thing you can do is kind of mark your entry point. If you're not quite sure where to go in, then you can leave a little mark or something there. But basically I'm just lining my eye up, lining my nose up with the rim, and the bevel here lined up with the direction I want to go, and ease it in. We're into solid wood. See what's happened. Right, I can live with that. Not quite parallel, but I can live with that. And for the rest of it I'm going to do with the scraper, and I like to use a curve just inside what I'm trying to cut. This is the shear scraper. Might be a little bit too close, but we'll just see how we go. Now that noise means it's getting thin, and usually means it's down to about 1/8 of an inch thick. I was hoping I wasn't going to hear quite that shrill a noise, but I don't think I'm going to go through. So it just means I've got to go more gently across the screaming bit. Just the wood saying don't hurt me, really. And just see if it's a trampoline, if it's very thin. No, it's not actually springy. I've got a little spiral chatter, but that will sand. And like so many things with turning, when you start, it's knowing what you can get away with. As you definitely get away with the ball. So I'm going to be power sanding this. So I'll try the 180 grit. Right, the chatter's gone, that's all there is to it. So up here, great advantage of the angle drill is that you can use it one-handed, or you can get it in an angle much more controllable than the more conventional kind of pistol grip drill. You do the corners. That's the 180, and this is the 240. That's the plate kind of broadly done. Just going to mark now the next stage. I'm going to take this to a sander and I'm going to sand each side with the plate at an angle, and I'll end up with a plate which looks as though it's curved on the sides, but in fact they're flat in one plane. But I do need just to have a reference point. And so I'll do it, I'll just have that, I think. And these little marks will sand off later, and that's why I haven't put a finish on yet. And then I'll just mark the centre of those. Now, I don't want anything absolutely dead square either, because I think they look a bit too contrived. I rather like the kind of more free-form nature of it all. So we've got, what am I trying to do? Take this out of the chuck. Now I have a sanding disc here, which goes onto a screw chuck. Oh. Thank you. So now I just want to bring this in at an angle. I've also got a sanding table which I've made up, which just slots into the bed. That means that I can tilt the thing here, have a little bit more accuracy about it, although normally I just do these things by eye, which I think I'll do this time. So the idea is just to hold this at much the same angle each time. I'm going to have my elbow on the rest as a kind of point of reference. I just want to get it flat. So there's still a little bit more to come off there. It's gone. I don't know what the angle is. It must be about 20 degrees, but I'm trying to keep it at much the same on each side. But I'm not too fussed if it's not dead square. See, this is slightly pointy that way, so I can take a bit more off that one, and I'll just ease that corner in. But I find that if they're absolutely square, they just look a bit, I don't know, they're not so appealing to me anyway. So that's that, and then barely needs its bits rubbing off down the side. There's still a little bit of, I could go back on the other chuck, but I can do that by hand, and to get the pencil marks off. And then it gets oiled, and that's that. Now I've got another one, another plate, a similar blank, which has this terrific feather figure across the bottom, but I did drill the hole a little deep, but I thought it would be interesting for you to just see how I go about this. So I've got just see how thick it is in the bottom, and it's horribly thin, but I think, I was looking at it last night, I think there's enough to get away with it, but I did spend a bit of time trying to work out how to do it. So the thickness in the bottom is that it's not very much. It's about probably might be 4 millimeters. I looked at the back, and that is slightly dished in the middle, so I think I can get away with it, provided I work initially based on that surface. So what I'm going to do is to get this apart. So I'm going to, it'll be fairly kind of tricky way, moving stuff around quite a bit, but it shows you really, one solution to what looks like an insoluble problem. That will be the base for it, which is what I've just used. Now, in this case, I'm going to have to bring the tailstock up, which I'll just reach around Dave's camera. So we have the holes already drilled, so that's one of my fixed things, and the idea is going to be to get this onto here. So that's going to be fine. So, and from the overhead you can probably see quite how far out, or if I come round to here, oh, there's a pencil mark there. So I've really got to draw a straight line across there. That's how thick my plate's going to be in the end, and I can cope with that. So to get there, I've got to get some method here of holding this in a chuck up on this side. So I think if I just take a circle out around there, leave a little foot around there, then I can grab it with one of the chucks I've got, so I can take everything outside that down to here away. And I'm going to do that with the 3/8 spindle gouge. Is everything rattling around here? I'm just removing all the dividers and things off the top of my dust extractor. So 3/8 bowl gouge, and just squeeze the edge in, and it'll be a lot less rattling once I've got that bulk off and it's mostly gone. Now, you've probably got a better view than I have from the overhead camera with the line. As you can see, I think that's, I'm pretty well down to, yep, so I'm pretty well down to that. So I now need a foot I can grab in there, and I'm going to do that with the 1/2" spindle gouge because it's got a longer point, and I can get that into a corner. Oh, just... So that was because I had the tool a little bit too open and the shoulder on the other side caught the right wing. Now, will there be enough to grab there? Yes. So. I need to open that up, flatten this little bit in here so that the chuck jaws can get in. Might just do a little bit more than that, and I'm going to use a square end scraper this time. Right, the tailstock's getting in the way, so the rest comes right up so I can reach over the top. I need to undercut that slightly so the jaws get in. Right, that will do that. If it all works out, we're going to have a very nice pretty little plate. So we now need these jaws, which I hope, yes, the eyeball was correct. So the absolute minimum off the bottom here. Right, I have another problem coming up. There's more here than will fit into the chuck jaws, so but I have got a little ridge there, so I'll just see if that works. Which it, yes, I can get away with that. Right, that is a bit of getting away with too. Okay, so what I'm gripping on here is this kind of 1.5 millimeters out here, because that lot wouldn't go down into the chuck. I could change chucks, but that looks as though it'll do it. So, back the tail centre out of the way. I'm going to minimal flattening up on the bottom here. And I get my dividers. So this will be the diameter. Just there. So now it's basically the same as for the first plate. The wing of the 3/8 spindle of bowl gouge. Take that out very steadily. There was could hear the wood trying to grab at the timber. Right, I'm getting a bit thin there, but you saw when I sand it out, when I sand the sides, that'll take care of any damage up there. Bring the rest out a bit further so my hand's further out. Right, that's okay. Now getting across the bottom, let's see. Knowing how little I've got there. Right, there's a very unfortunate groove just there, so we'll see how we go. I've just got to come down. There's a little kind of area there which is a bit of a problem. It's only about 1 millimeter, not very much. So we'll get that done first. Now that's running smooth, which means I've now got a mound in the middle. still high in the middle. Hear that different sound, the centre where the much tougher grain where the feather pattern is. Ooh, right, bit careless. That's why you wear safety glasses. Right, and it's also dinged the surface there, so we can cope with that. And just to remind myself where it's dinged when the mark's almost gone, so I know where to look for it. Just there. See, very little marks. I could even put a groove in which would cover it, but it's not quite, can't quite get away with that one here. So it just means this little plate's going to have a higher foot and it'll be flatter. All right. What you call design opportunities. And round that over. Gone. Good. Right, into the 80 grit, 180 grit rather. Might switch the lathe off this time. So it's still terribly close to the middle, so I need a bit more down in the centre. Foam rubber. Grit. Now this is going to make a lot of noise, I imagine, at the bottom. We'll find out very shortly. So in with the 3/8 bowl gouge again. I might do the rim first this time, so there's so little to play with. Yes, I've got a little bit. Oh no, that'll be okay. I can cope with that lot. Right, across the middle. Oh, it looks horribly deep. I'm going to go in with a square end scraper this time. I think I've got a bit more control than with the gouge. I was expecting a bit more noise than that. So. Right, back to the shear scraper now, and it's just used flat. Right. I'm just trying to keep the tool barely rubbing the wood. No, it's still not. It's still okay. Now, I've still got the same kind of spiral chatter that I had before. Now, if I do this by hand, I'm going to be using. I'll use a sanding pad on this. This is the the rubber, and using 120 grit, so I can get rid of the centre. The problem is when you're sanding with the hand, it tends to get a bit of a lump in the center, so you do it by hand and rotate, or you rotate by hand, and every time you push you go across center, so that gets rid of any mound in the middle. So just a bit slower. I'm going to go back to the power, but that's the way you can do that. This is 180 grit. Whereas with the power, the problem is taking away too much in the middle. Right, there's a little bit of torn grain up there. It will probably come out when I do the edges, but just in case, I'll take that away. I'm tilting this so the sand is going that way. I'm going to come up, so I want it coming up into the oncoming wood. So that came out all right. This really is, it's a very nice quick way of getting kind of illusion, because when you look at it from the top, it looks curved, whereas in fact it's flat if you look at it from that angle. So I'll just put some oil on that and you can see how the wood came out. And these are just the right size for a bit of toast. Much better than a little round dish with a plate of the same size. So, I don't know why people don't want to use things like this, but it just, I always think it's a pleasure. You finish your toast and you've got that nice little bit of figure underneath. So we have 2 of those plates now. Good.